caller or listener constitute legal advice or the formation of an attorney-client relationship, and the material from this program should not be viewed as a substitute for personal consultation with an attorney. Welcome to Talk Legal with Jeff Van Treese, who brings you all the latest news in the legal world. Jeff will be discussing a variety of legal topics with experts in the field. If you would like to ask a question or share a story on the air, please call toll-free 888-565-1470. Once again, that's 888-565-1470. Now, let's talk legal with Jeff Van Treese.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Talk Legal. I'm your host, Jeff Van Treese. I'm an attorney with the law firm Oltman, Flynn & Kubler, where we practice intellectual property law, including patents, trademarks, and copyrights. You can check us out online and view all archived episodes of this show, including last week's captivating episode with Vincent Bugliosi on our website at oltmanpatent.com. That's oltmanpatent.com. I'd also like to acknowledge our other sponsor, Fresh Start Tax. Fresh Start Tax offers a full range of accounting services, including basic tax returns as well as assistance with tax levies, wage garnishments, and any other tax-related concern. This is tax season. We got 2 more today and tomorrow for the deadline. So visit them online at freshstarttax.com if you have any concerns about your taxes. So this evening, my guest is Marilyn Kant. Marilyn and I have been friends for a number of years now. She is an attorney and is a digital business strategist. She advises corporate clients on a variety of legal issues, and this evening we're going to be discussing privacy rights in the digital age as well as net neutrality. So, Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jeff.
So, I'd like to get right into it. We recently had a ruling from the FCC regarding net neutrality. If you could just explain to our listeners, what is net neutrality?
Well, this is really quite a significant occurrence. The FCC basically voted to make the internet a utility and will put forth or have started to put forth rules to govern that utility. And certainly there's a lot of pushback. I believe there's a bill in Congress called the Internet Freedom Act, which basically is to try to undo the authority by the FCC to promulgate rules that will govern the utility going forward. So the whole premise was really to make the internet free and to give everyone equal access to the internet and not differentiate it in terms of speeds where you pay a premium or more importantly,
when you say you're referring to the website.
No, I'm talking about the Verizons, the AT&Ts, the Comcast of the world, who have the broadband. So the issue is really one of fairness and equal access, where there wouldn't be someone can slow down, like let's say a Netflix, slow down their speed in terms of their downstreaming, or pay them a premium for certain speeds, and to equalize the playing field and to prevent any potential discriminations, if you will, or unfairness in the market, or potentials for that. I think the FCC has stepped in, rightfully so, in my opinion, to really look at this future and say that everyone is entitled to free access to this internet.
So would this apply to different websites? So, for example, if I start my own website, it should run just as fast as Walmart's website.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
And part of the reasoning here is that the internet is special. It's different from, let's say, television, where the advertisers determine in many ways the demographics of the audience, determining the advertising that will determine the contents of the programming and so forth, and that plays a huge role, whereas with the internet it should be anybody should be able to find anything on the internet with the same speed throughout.
That's correct. And and it really is a utility if you think about how it's evolved commercially and socially. you do need access to a computer these days to really do business in many instances. E-commerce has just grown and will continue to grow and will continue to evolve in terms of different platforms. Certainly the smartphone right now is a main vehicle which businesses are trying to design their communications and their content and their transactions around the mobile devices. So you can basically, do your banking on your phone, you can buy things on your phone, you can transfer funds from one account to the other. It'll just grow in terms of the functionality of these mobile devices and the apps that are created. So again, it's important to give all businesses, all people, access to that opportunity. And I do believe in this instance, the FCC made a very good decision, and it's one that I hope Congress doesn't undo.
And with the business side, this is something that allows small businesses to enter the field and to potentially compete with some of their larger rivals. If you had a situation where internet service providers were charging premiums for the fast lane, so to speak, to have faster speeds for their websites, then it might be a cost of entry issue which smaller businesses might not be able to compete with.
And I think what's so important, and I believe it broke the record, I think, in terms of public comment on the FCC regulation. I want to say there was something like 4 million comments, public comments, that were entered by, everyone, citizens, anyone who had an opinion or an investment, if you will, in terms of this freedom. But one of the main arguments, I think, was that in our country and in the world, we certainly need to encourage innovation. And that only comes about if there's no longer any gatekeepers. You and I or anyone with an idea can basically develop it, communicate it, go on YouTube, brand it, develop content, and the entry fees for that are much lower than any other time in our economy. So again, this is an issue of innovation, this is an issue of enterprise and expression, creative expression. I think we've seen that, it's just amazing, all the various, there's Tumblr, there's YouTube, there's Flick, there's just so many, opportunities on the internet now to sort of showcase your creativity and your ideas. So I think this move by the FCC and the support that it had from President Obama is very important. And I think in the future, preserving that entry for everyone equally is probably going to be one of the flagships, I think, of his presidency.
And you mentioned earlier the public comment portion of the regulatory process, which is when you have an agency, a governmental agency like the FCC, it doesn't pass laws, it passes what's called rules or regulations. When that happens, there's a period of time before those regulations are adopted where the public has an opportunity to comment. And this is a very important part of our involvement as a citizenry that in many cases we're not aware of. We all know we go to the polls to vote for candidates during an election, but we also have the opportunity to comment on rules that are being adopted. And here we had a very large number of people that came forward and commented on this. So this is also a part of the democratic process to a certain extent.
Well, and I think so many people took that initiative because it was easy to do. You could just log on and you could, input your comment, your viewpoint, your support, your disagreement. And I think that's another, certainly incredible innovation, having the internet, to be able to have individuals voice their opinions. I was watching The Voice last night with my daughter, and I said we definitely have to go on and vote. And I think just that whole sense of being able to engage an audience is just amazing, and it will be interesting for the future of politics, particularly. How that will really change things. I think the landscape has certainly been adjusted, and I think we're just starting to see the beginnings of that, certainly in this country.
So when we're looking at privacy rights, because now everyone's on the internet, businesses are operating on the internet. We've had the growth of social media. You mentioned some of those platforms, which are actually relatively recent. I mean, they're not much older than a decade or so since we've had Facebook and Twitter and everything else, which brings up some interesting legal issues and constitutional issues as it relates to privacy, because there is no constitutional right to privacy, but the courts always look at privacy or your expectation of privacy when they're assessing your rights. So, what are some of the issues that come up when you're dealing with, we have government surveillance has been in the news a lot lately, but there's also corporate surveillance or data mining, as it's sometimes called. So, I sometimes wonder whether we even have an expectation of privacy if we post something on Facebook or even if we send an email to someone.
Well, each platform has terms and conditions of service which everyone clicks agree. Probably most people don't really read that carefully in terms of what a Facebook or Google or Amazon or any other company is permitted to do with your information. But the law basically stems from the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, which I think dates back to the 1980s. So it's really outdated. And I don't believe that it really speaks to the issues that we're facing now, especially with data stored on the cloud. I think there was a recent case with Microsoft where they have the data center, I believe, is maybe in Ireland, or the person who has an email. So the data is in.
It was on a
Ireland.
Data storage in Ireland, and there was an issue brought in international law with respect to whether I think it was the Department of Justice could subpoena Microsoft to reveal that information.
And, that is one which I think other companies like Apple, I think Verizon, Amazon, CNN, The Guardian, The Washington Post, I think all submitted supportive briefs in support of really looking at the situation that if Microsoft were to turn over those emails, and there was an investigation or the government had some interest in terms of the information, then the question is, what if another government wants that same information from the United States? What is Microsoft's legal liability or legal affirmative responsibility in terms of compliance?
We're going to have to take a short break, and we'll be back with Marilyn Kant. Please stay tuned.
This program is brought to you by Fresh Start Tax. Fresh Start Tax offers a full range of tax and accounting services, including tax return preparation and bookkeeping, as well as back taxes, wage garnishments, unfiled returns, or any other tax-related concern. Our dedicated team of tax attorneys, CPAs, and former IRS agents offer over 60 years of professional tax experience. For a free consultation, call 866-700-1040. That's 866-700-1040. You can also visit us on the web at freshstarttax.com. This program is brought to you by the law firm of Altman, Flynn, and Kugler. We practice elder law and intellectual property, including patents, trademarks, and copyrights. If you would like to patent your idea, please contact our Fort Lauderdale office for a free consultation. Call 954-563-4814. That's 954-563-4814. Or visit us online at altmanpatent.com. That's OLTMANPATENT.com. Spokesperson, not an attorney. Thank you for listening to Talk Legal with Jeff Van Treese. Tune in next week for more insight. You're listening to Talk Legal with Jeff Van Treese, who brings you all the latest news in the legal world. If you would like to ask a question or share a story on the air, please call toll-free 888-565-1470. Once again, that's 888-565-1470. Now, back to Talk Legal with Jeff Van Treese.
And we're back. My guest this evening is Marilyn Kant. She's an attorney and business consultant, and we've been discussing some legal issues affecting telecommunications in the digital age. So, last week we had a tragedy in Charleston, South Carolina, where an individual was shot when he was fleeing a police officer, and the whole incident was essentially caught on a cell phone, and it was put online, and now that officer has been arrested and is facing first-degree murder charges. I think this relates very much to the digital age because now everyone has cell phone cameras. Things are being recorded much more frequently. So there's a certain air of transparency. Of course, the other side is that things are not as private as they used to be. But something like this is very encouraging to see that instances like this, which would otherwise be in dispute, where it's very important to get to the truth, we have it recorded, as we have here with this unfortunate tragedy. We're talking about access to the internet, access to the digital world. If that was taken away, then some of this might not be possible. Having everyone having access to the internet and being able to see things, and for news to be disseminated as quickly as it is.
Well, certainly we're seeing that occurrence in many instances with regard to the police, most recently. But wearing body cameras, I think, is a technology that's available where police officers wear these cameras. And now the whole question is the public records law and what's going to be permissible in terms of, I think there was a hacker out there who wanted all of the footage from, I want to say it's, I don't know which state it was, or city, but it was going to cost quite a bit of money and a lot of data to give this particular individual who made the public records request. So the question then becomes, what is the standard? The standard is, do you have a reasonable expectation for privacy? Certainly in healthcare, and in your doctor's office, in public restrooms, certainly in your own home, you would have that expectation. So there are many other places where one would have a reasonable expectation. However, in public, we're out and about and something happens. We had that happen in Fort Lauderdale where there was an officer, that was caught again on camera who happened to look like slaps a homeless person at a bus station, and that went all over the news. So the question now is, anybody can take that because it's in public. So there's a lot of private, if it's on private property and you have something that says no photography allowed and someone takes a snapshot and goes, to post it, that would be considered trespass. So again, as we evolve in this digital age and anybody can take a snapshot of any personality. I happen to be with a client today down in Winewood, and they have a puppet that is their basic intellectual property, which they didn't want anyone taking pictures of because they haven't really launched this particular channel yet. So, we had to specifically ask people not to take photos and be very careful in terms of where we went in public to protect that property. So again, those lines now of what's public and what's a reasonable expectation of privacy, or what rights do you have to conduct certain business on private property and not be subject to someone, taking a snapshot. I think it's quite interesting because everyone's sort of creating their own self movies, videos, photographs, and again, I think in terms of the law and public policy, these are evolving areas of the law, and I think some are disturbing.
Right.
Some are disturbing because that line of privacy. Certainly, when my information on Facebook is being shared and I start getting these ads, I think there's a fine line where if businesses cross that line, I think consumers are going to have an uproar. So there's a real fine line there where people are starting to feel very feel violated.
I would agree with that. I mean, the great thing about cameras is that it allows us to get to the truth, like we have with this case in Charleston. It allows us to get to the truth, and we know what happened. You're right with respect to private property. If we don't have that, then our status as citizens is really not the same. You know, we don't have the same rights that our founding fathers had envisioned that we have. That we have security in our persons, houses, papers, in effect, as the Fourth Amendment says. I'd like to turn our attention to some other issues that have come up. There's this news about something that's called the Google robot. If you could tell us a little bit about that and some of the privacy issues related to that.
Well, I think it's quite revolutionary, really. I mean, we've always talked about artificial intelligence and what that would look like. The old Jetsons shows, you know, the old Star Wars, Star Trek kinds of TV shows of future technology and prospective ideas of what it might look like. And I think Google has recently been issued patents on robots that now have personalities. They actually can, I guess, program them to have not only intelligence. I think they recently also.
But in this case, they can actually post for you on social media. They look for patterns in your writing style and how you're likely to respond to certain things, and that they can post for you. What I find interesting here is that this is being sold as sort of with a pretext for convenience. But in reality, this may allow for very invasive data mining, where Google or other corporate entities can get their hands on very personal information with respect to social media and email accounts and so forth. So, you know, this is sort of a big brother issue that brings up an interesting ethical dilemma.
And I think that's where, you know, our government really needs to update our laws to really account for these privacy issues, because they're only, I mean, look at drones. I mean, that's a whole nother issue in terms of privacy. So I do think we do need to really look at the cloud. We need to look at how do we govern it. You know, there's all these international boundaries, you know, as the Microsoft case mentions. There's the recent Amazon case where, you know, they're suing these companies who are posting these positive reviews
Amazon
that are totally,
is suing, right?
that are totally bogus and certainly compromising the integrity of what Amazon represents in terms of consumer confidence. So you know, these are the new types. This is the new frontier of the law, really. But I think the sooner that Congress deals with these privacy issues, the better, because we are seeing. And some we don't even know about. Certainly, you know, artificial intelligence is something. It's a good thing. It's innovation, but we also have to protect, again, you know, our individual liberties that are so dear to us as Americans, and certainly looking at the international community. I think the UN just has a new committee related to privacy. So I think it's an international issue that we're going to see more and more discussions on, more comments, more thoughts, where we can protect privacy and rights, but also have innovation. And so that's the balancing act that I think we're currently,
With respect to the Amazon case, I think it's interesting because you essentially have these competitors that are posting bad reviews online. You know, I think this is somewhat related to my own practice with trademarks, where the issue that comes up is with a trademark infringement. If somebody says that someone else is infringing on their trademark, is the trademark, or is the trademark that's being infringed on, rather, or the infringing party, misleading the public? And that's to a certain extent what's going on here with these Amazon reviews. They're misleading the public, and there's no right to do that under the law.
No, it's misrepresentation, and it's a tort. I mean, it's harmful. It's misrepresenting the truth, and certainly consumers are relying on those opinions more so than ever when making purchases. So certainly it's harmful for Amazon and its brand.
We have just a couple of minutes left. I want to make sure that you have a chance to tell our listeners how you can be reached in the event they're in need of your services.
Yes, well, if you're a business owner and you certainly are looking strategically in terms of your presence in this digital age, if you will, in terms of branding your business, developing content, but most importantly, protecting your intellectual property, you can certainly reach me online. I can be reached by my phone as well, 954-732-3345. And you can certainly Google me and you'll get my contact information.
Great. So I would like to give a very special thanks to my guests, Marilyn Kant. We have about a minute or so left. Definitely visit us online at oltmanpatent.com, where you can see all archived episodes of this show. That's oltmanpatent.com. Try to check out last week's episode. Vincent Bugliosi who I interviewed with respect to his recent documentary film, The Prosecution of an American President. So I'd like to thank all of our listeners, and please tune in next week, Tuesday night from 6 to 6:30, where my guest will be Gus Bravo, and we'll be discussing the Fair Debt Collection Act as well as consumer protection. And also watch his show, Attorney Confidential with Neil and Gus, that airs Monday nights at 6 o'clock on WNN. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you for listening to Talk Legal with Jeff Van Treese. Tune in next week for more insightful and exciting information about the law. You can contact Jeff by email at jvt2law@gmail.com or give him a call at 561-789-6866. That's 561-789-6866. The content of the preceding program, including all statements from the host and guest,